This drawing is a story about grief and resolution. Grief for the unjust murder of tens of millions of lives, for a creature guilty only of being valuable to others. Animal Farm is meant to startle and provoke us, but beyond that, it asks a simple question. Why must we act so horribly towards one another, and how can we come back from the brink of destruction? In this video, I will take you through the historical lens and creative process that I use to create my drawings. We will follow a non-linear storyline that blends art history with the Western landscape that has become the backdrop of my life and work. In the latter half of the 1800s, the population of American bison went from somewhere between 50 and 60 million wild animals to less than 400 in the span of 20 years. It is still one of, if not the largest and quickest losses of an entire species in modern history. This genocide was conducted by multiple actors and on multiple fronts. The United States Army, backed by the government, incentivized the slaughter of the animals in the wake of the Civil War by the millions. In conjunction, the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad allowed horde after horde of settlers to easily access the still wild American West. All of this decimation further crippled and starved the remaining Native American populations while enriching the settlers. The most intense period of eradication of the bison population was done by hide hunters during the 1870s to provide sturdy leather for the ongoing industrial revolutions taking place in the eastern United States and Europe. Aiding this process again were the railroads, allowing for the easy transport of hides back to tanneries. Additionally, the bison's inherent defense behavior unwittingly doomed them as they instinctually surround and protect any member of their herd that is injured. They do not abandon one another or flee in the face of danger. This evolutionary display of valor and nobility was no match for the greed-stricken settlers who killed as many animals as they could. After they were killed and skinned, they were left to rot across the Great Plains. Their bodies, beheld as sacred to the very last scrap of bone by the Native Americans, were left to putrefy, the meat ruined. Entire herds lay devoid of their hide for as far as the eye could see, a feast only for the wolves and buzzards that could get to their carcasses in time. I always knew that the story of the near eradication of the bison was a deplorable chapter in the history of humankind. Stories of tourists shooting at them from passenger rail cars, grand pyramids made from their skulls, and accounts of orphaned calves forming herds of only babies were not unheard to me. But seeing these photos of the lifeless, glistening bison brewed a new feeling of anger in me. This was beyond a betrayal of the sanctity of life. It was a holocaust. It was, as one onlooker likened it, more akin to the death of a god than an animal. The martyrdom of an entire species seemed too brutal of an image to create for this story. It seemed to me that the bison had suffered enough. But I did not want to create something devoid of teeth. It needed to have some bite. My mind wandered to other famous martyrdoms, mostly aggrandized in the baroque paintings commissioned by the Catholic Church during the 17th century. In particular, that of Saint Bartholomew stood out to me. He was, after all, skinned alive. He's often seen holding his fleshy likeness as a shawl, or made up of just muscles and tendons. Many artists have tackled this subject, but few as well as Giuseppe Ribera of Spain. His realism and uncompromising bleakness have always been admirable to me. He was an artist that put as much care into the dirt underneath a fingernail as he did the eyes of a smiling face. And while his work and the American bison at first seemed far apart, the more and more I searched, the more commonality I was able to create. But I knew that I didn't want the bison simply to take the place of the skinned saint. That was too easy. I wanted more. I wanted its revenge. Much of my work examines human morality reflected in our treatment of the living and sedentary world around us. The dramatic flair of the Baroque period suits this thought experiment well. And when I found this lithograph by Ribera of Saint Bartholomew being flayed alive, I knew that I wanted to recreate it. In this new version, I would see to it that the human figure represented the evil of the greedy murderers who poached the bison almost out of existence, and the righteous soldiers torturing him, the forgotten animals of the West's submission. I began by creating this drawing in my sketchbook, and then making a large-scale print of it on cotton paper with watertight ink. I had a color palette in mind similar to that of Albrecht Dürer's famous nightmare sketch, in which he dreamt the whole world was being smothered in water. To match this, I only used earth tone watercolors, combining them with coffee instead of water. Included in this drawing are a litany of hidden narratives and pronouncements. The figure of the bison treading with disdain on the newly laid railroad that signaled its destruction. The spears of the forgotten and betrayed Native American tribes, the Cheyenne, Comanche, Ojibwe, Kiowa, Lakota, Apache, just to name a few. The donkey-headed knife sharpener is a nod not only to the pack animals that brought many settlers westward, but also a reference to the ass-headed characters in Francisco Goya's Los Caprichos, a series of wickedly satirical intaglio prints that attack the evils of society and the ignorance of class, and in this case, species segregation. At first, what may seem out of place is the hog-headed soldier looking on in approval, but pigs have been a bedrock staple of food and commerce in the United States ever since they unwittingly took their first steps into North America during the 16th century. The same goes for sheep. They have paid their dues enough to warrant inclusion. Only after completing an image can I, as the artist, truly reflect on it. My hope is that this drawing leaves us with more questions than feelings of righteousness. In this image, I now too feel sorrow for the human being needlessly torn apart. In fact, the most troubling aspect of Animal Farm to me now is that the animals have taken up the same terrible behavior as the settlers who destroyed them in the first place. Yet it also takes exactly this type of image to force a new perspective onto us as viewers. Why do we treat each other this way? Why do we excuse the humanity that is so evident in the face of other people and creatures of this planet? I believe that drawings like this are a step towards righting these wrongs and helping creatures like the bison, and in turn, ourselves. My hope is that in the coming decades, efforts to rewild the American bison will continue to succeed. In November of 2025, Colorado voted to recognize any bison that crosses state lines as wildlife instead of livestock for the first time ever. Mindsets like this are imperative for a future that is just and equitable not only for people, but for animals too. If you're in Denver and would like to see bison and form your own connection, you can visit the Rocky Mountain National Arsenal or the Genesee Mountain Bison Preserve off of I-70. Both of these herds not only constitute an ongoing effort to return the bison to the Great Plains, but also to the native peoples who thrived alongside of them for thousands of years. These herds have contributed over 140 bison back to the native tribes in the past 10 years. A kind future is possible for all of us. If you would like to donate to help the American bison and other living things, please visit the Nature Conservancy. I have included a list of links below, as well as one to my own print shop if you would like to see more drawings and paintings like Animal Farm. Thank you for watching.